welcome to the 2025 public hearing for the New York City Interagency Coordinating Council on Youth. My name is Sarah Marks. I'm here today on behalf of DYCD and on behalf of our Commissioner Keith Howard, who unfortunately was called away just a few moments ago, and sends his regrets. So we are really excited today to have this opportunity, as we do once a year, to have this special time for any member of the public, young people, really any age, to talk to this group of the ICC. So the ICC membership is composed of all of the city agencies that work with young people, that touch young people in some way, have some involvement with youth services or serving youth in any way. So that's really almost every city agency. We're really excited to have everyone here. Before we sort of move into the introductions and the full bit of the hearing, I want to have two things. I want to thank the ICC members who have also, so far, we are compiling our annual report right now, which will have information about all of the youth work that's happening across the city in different city agencies. So I want to thank the ICC members who have shared that information with us, and if you haven't, we'll be following up. But especially want to do like a huge thank you to the team that put this event together today, specifically to our youth apprentice, Jalen Rivera, and to our intern from New York University Gallatin School, Hong Wang, as well as the rest of our team in the Office of Intergovernmental and Public Affairs, including Karen, Reggie, and Elizabeth, who are here helping out both in person and online. And thank you to our communications team, who is always helpful in making sure that we can promote our events as well as record them for our future use. Thank you, and very much to everyone who joined us today. We have one sort of a big announcement, which is the community needs assessment. So right now, one of the major projects DYCD is working on is called the community needs assessment. It's a survey that's open to everyone who's 14 years old or older who lives or works in New York City. And this is pretty short. You can take it on your phone. And Jalen has, she's pointing at a very large poster in the front of the room. And you can use your phone to check out the QR code for that. It's a survey. It's anonymous. You don't need to give your name. It asks where you live. You don't have to give your exact address, but it's important to pick a place that's near where you live. And it's asking about what services are in your neighborhood that you've used, what services you think people need, what you'd like to see more of, and that really helps us to form, as well as other city agencies, to make decisions about where programs are located. So that's a huge project that's going on right now. There's some flyers at the front, and so for members of the public, we'd love for you to take that survey, and if you have connections to any kind of network, please share that out. We have flyers, we have information on our website. You can share it with your classmates, if you work for a nonprofit organization, with your clients, with your neighbors, and also for our city agency partners. If you would like more of that information from us to help you send it out, we would be more than thrilled to do that. So I'm going to turn to introduce the panel. So we'll introduce the panel, then we'll give just a brief explanation of how we'll run the hearing, and we'll start with the testimony. So I'm going to pass the microphone all the way. We'll start at this end, and I'm going to ask my agency colleagues to introduce themselves to the room.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kara Velez, and I'm here today with the agency New York City Parks, and my title is Community Coordinator.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Shamira Gambrell. I am the Associate Commissioner for Juvenile Operations at the New York City Department of Probation.
Good afternoon. I'm Molly Brotmiller. I'm from the New York City Law Department, the Family Court Division. I practice in family court.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Yosenik Sorengo, and I'm the manager of team programs at Brooklyn Public Library. And I have a few flyers here for some internship opportunities and things like that. So feel free to grab a flyer on the way out. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin Coleman-McGaw. I am the Associate Director of Young Adult Programs and Services at the New York Public Library. It's really good to see you all.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jay Liu. I'm with New York City Public Schools, or AKA Department of Education. This is my third year attending this, and I love every minute of it. Please take it easy on us. I know a lot of you guys have a lot of great opinions and stuff.
Hi everyone, I'm Audrey Washington. I am with the New York City Housing Authority, which is NYCHA, and I am the Director for Office of Public-Private Partnerships. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you. We also have two city agency reps on the Zoom, so I wanted to ask them to unmute and introduce themselves as well. And that's going to be the real test of our tech setup. I'm sorry, we have three.
I can start. Eric Paulino with the Department of Social Services, Human Resources Administration, and Department of Homeless Services.
Thank you, Eric. Colleen?
Hi everyone, I'm Colleen Dory from the Administration for Children's Services, ACS. Thanks for being here. Good to see everyone.
Thank you. And Courtney?
Hi everyone, Courtney Yoshimura. Can everyone hear me? Department of Cultural Affairs. Thanks everyone for coming.
Okay, I thought I saw environmental protection flash across the screen.
Yes, hi, I'm Lakeisha Bradshaw, and I'm at the DEP Education Office. I'm happy to be here as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. The next portion is really what I think we're all here for, which is the public testimony. We're really excited that once again we have a large group from the New York Civil Liberties Unions. We're really looking forward to hearing what you've been working on this year and what's important to you, as well as we have members of the public who signed up in advance using our job form. And if we have anyone who walks in who's interested in testifying, if you're here and you didn't let us know in advance that you want to testify, either through your organization, we do have slips at the side to fill that out. What we'll do is, I think each person will have 3 minutes. We do have a timekeeper who will, give you a wave and hold up a sign when it's getting close to the end of time, the end of your allotted time to speak. Sorry. So we will do that. We will alternate because there are so many people who are from one group. We'll alternate so we'll start with one person from the TAP group, and then we'll alternate with a member of the public. And then we'll sort of go from there. We can have two people at the front at the same time, taking alternating. And so I'll try to give people a little bit of warning so you won't just get called on instantly. That is it. So please join us. So our first, and excuse me, please say your name also when you begin. Say your name so that we can hear it, and say your name. Also, I'm looking at your names written down. I haven't met many of you, so I don't, I may mispronounce your name. So we definitely want to hear your full name for the record and for our tape of here. So I think the first two will be Hannah Ira and Michael Castro. And then after that, we will call on Nathaniel Fleming. Thank you. Oh, sorry, also the food has arrived, so it was a little later than we planned, so please feel free at any point that you're comfortable to go up and have a snack, bring it over. We'll be relaxed about it. No one will be offended if you're eating in the audience, if you're eating up at the dais over here. So thank you, everyone. Okay, please go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Ira and I'm here today as a student organizer with the New York Civil Liberties Union as well as a young queer person of color. I grew up trying to find myself in books in the library, and when I first started exploring my identity, when I first started identifying and started finding myself, I tried to look for books that could resonate with me, such as LGBTQIA+ books and kids books where there are kids of colors and just kids in general that didn't fill that typical mold. But when I started to look for those books, those weren't in the library, and I started to find that those weren't just my cases. Those books were removed, quietly removed, and more so. Simply because some books were challenged or some books were just being reported by parents, and just in general because of they were way too afraid to buy those books because of the amount of controversial opinion people had around them. And some of the statistics that I would like to present here is that 30% of those books were about race or included characters that were people of color. And in 2023, in Pan America, documented over 3,306 book banning incidents across the United States, and 25% included characters of LGBTQ+ students. And the message that we receive from this is very clear that certain identities and certain stories of people aren't meant to be heard. And by removing those books, people are not only removing opportunities to read books, but also removing people's ability to find their representation in those books. And students really deserve classroom and libraries where they're being taught a diverse and inclusive amount of curriculum, and not just a very strictly typical kind of book, just because there's just a lot of diverse community, as we know that New York City is. So we really deserve to have something that's really represent our diversity. And that's why I want to advocate for freedom to read with the New York Civil Liberties Union. That bill has already been passed on the Senate floor, but government hopeful still hasn't signed it. So we really want to urge you to consider it and push for a future where every voice is represented equally. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Hannah. And next speaker is Michael Castro.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Castro, and I'm a student at Leon M. Gosien High School for the Sciences, one of many schools currently affected by the new cell phone ban. Walking the halls, I met with 2 to 3 cameras staring straight at me no matter which corner I turn, that way for me to open my phone. A funding issue that I'll talk about in a second. But more importantly, an academic student feel as if they're not worthy of trust, creating a toxic educational environment. Even the teachers at my school says it feels as if they're in a prison, constantly watched. Aside from the adaptive environment that internet-enabled devices such as tablets and laptops allow students to do more intensive in-school research, the cell phone ban ensures an increased risk of targeted school searches based on bias and a redirection of critical funds. I'll be speaking on 2 of the main critical points that I wrote about. One is increased surveillance, searches, and suspensions. New regulations lead to unintended consequences, allowing for more possible disciplinary actions against students, which causes a loss of crucial class time due to unnecessary searches. Although the regulations on page 215-18 on search protocols for school safety agents on nyc.gov said that teachers need reasonable suspicion, this is a very blurred line and is easily excusatory. A teacher's word is rarely questioned, and the line drawn from reasonably suspicious when it comes to having a device that almost everyone has. The teacher could create a number of slightly believable excuses in their reasoning to search a bag based on bias. No one wants to believe their teachers will faculty are racist or biased. We cannot ignore human biases and a constant bias surveillance. Another thing is critical funding. Another detrimental consequence of the phone ban is the lack of funding for other resources. Here's the math. A Yonder pouch costs on average $25. If we use that and multiply it by the amount of students under the NYC DOE, which is approximately 1 million, then multiply that, then we get a total of $25 million spent on Yonder pouches alone. And I searched it up, that's also the allocated amount of resources they have. This is a lot of money, and money that we could be depositing towards mental health and professionals in school, such as psychiatrists, more counselors, and more resources. The lack of urgency when considering the New York City public school students not only makes the student body feel control, but when times get tough, they now have no one to talk to. As a student who's been through therapy, I've had numerous times in school that I needed to talk to someone, and when phones were allowed, I'd text my therapist during my off period or during my lunch to help me regulate myself. And I couldn't trust my guidance counselor to be open because our school only has 3 guidance counselors for 1,000-something students. So I was never able to trust that it would be open. This ratio is troubling, and the resource allocation could heavily benefit students because in case they need to talk to someone, at least they know that someone in their school will have someone that they can talk to. We at TOP urge you to consider all of the information presented and reconsider the cell phone ban, and instead look into allocating necessary resources to alleviate all the harms that students like me and my friends are experiencing on a daily basis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We are going to move. You can move back to your seats, and we're going to call up the next panelist. Is Nathaniel Fleming, and after that we will have Brianna Bailey and Lolly Holguin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nathaniel Fleming again. One of the 2 people that spoke, you did great because I'm an older man and it's still nervous. So you guys did fantastic, all right? Basically, I'm the founder of the Penelope Group. We are an organization in the company dedicated to getting HCBS and CFTSS services to our community. As I started my marketing career and discovering what HCBS was, and if you don't know what that is, it stands for Home and Community-Based Services. Discovering that these services were free and eligible for so many New Yorkers, and then realizing and going into schools, halfway houses, shelters, places where people look like and sound like me, and I did not see anyone or speak to anyone in these institutions that knew what these services were. HCBS allows our families who have children under IEPs, 504 plans, experiencing trauma or living in trauma, or severe asthma, to get free government-funded assistance. These type of assistance that provide food, shelter opportunity, transportation opportunity, family paid employment, case manager, a caregiver who would be with the child from ages 3 all the way up to 21 years old, offering tutoring, mentorship, vocational training, and several other attributes that will be really valuable to our communities. And it really broke my heart that I went into so many places like the shelters and women's shelters and the schools, and I didn't meet anyone who knew what these services were. Our educational systems provided IEPs and 504 plans, but they're not following through to the parents, letting them know like, hey, these are all the opportunities that are accessible for you and your family to grow and develop. So the abridged version of what Gandhi said was, if you want to see change in the world, you got to make it for yourself, right? So that's what I'm here doing. This is what my ambition is, and I'm hoping to build a relationship with all of you great leaders who are serving communities of families and children who are eligible for these services. Thank you so much for your time. And you guys
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, I should have, given a special thank you to our first 2 panelists, to Hannah and to Michael, for breaking the ice on this and being the first ones to go and to speak and to share what's important to you. I really appreciated hearing it. So we'll move on. Okay, so our next 2 are Brianna and Lolly. I want to ask, is Lakeisha here? Okay. Or yes? Okay. No, did I see someone raise their hand for? I think we have someone on the Zoom named Lakeisha, but sorry. Lakeisha Philippe or Alma Adi. Okay, so we'll skip over those 2, and so then after Lolly will be Nigel and Anna Salvatore. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Lolly Holguin. I'm a senior at Tomball High School and I'm an organizer for the NYCLU's Teen Activist Project. First, I want to extend my gratitude to the project because I think it's very important that we make space for these issues. To give you some context, I was born in Ecuador and later immigrated to New York. When I started school in Brooklyn, which had a student body of 20% Latino students, I was not offered any ESL classes and even had my teacher tell me, "In here, we speak English." I was 7 years old at the time. When I moved to Staten Island a few months later, I was placed in an ESL class and learned how to speak, read, and write in English in only 6 months. It is typically easier to learn a second language when you start from a young age. However, access to resources and well-trained ESL teachers ensures that even older students have a chance to flourish and become just as capable as they would be in their first language, as evidenced by my conviction to speak up in front of you today on behalf of my fellow immigrant students. Just when I thought that my school on Staten Island was a peaceful and welcoming place for my family and I started to see a great shift as the political climate got more tense on the topic of immigration. Earlier this year, I was told to go back to my country for the first time. It was the first time I started feeling uncomfortable in the place that I started to call home. What happens when the world around you and your school don't feel safe anymore? What happens, that's a big issue that ensues. Our current government administration has created an unsafe learning environment for immigrant students by encouraging ICE agents to enter schools and for ICE to use racial profiling for arrests. This racial profiling is dehumanizing and creates a harmful hierarchy in a sanctuary city, becoming not only detrimental to the mental health of immigrant students, but also a harmful ideology for non-immigrant students to grow with. Cultivating fear in young students has led them to miss school during active raids in their areas in hopes of avoiding ICE near the school grounds. This fear creates segregation and a gap in education. This is why, now more than ever, we need to pass New York for All Act, which would prohibit local law enforcement from colluding with ICE. We ask that all of you here urge your state senators and assembly members to support this bill and move it during the next legislative session. It is already hard as it is when you're an immigrant student adjusting to a new country. Giving immigrant students a chance to build a better life for themselves, the ones they deserve, is a giving right by the Constitution to follow the pursuit of happiness. That starts in schools. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is Brianna Bailey here? Oh, great. Okay. Okay. So the order now is it's Brianna, Nigel, then Anna.
Hello. My name is Brianna Bailey. I'm a senior and a youth leader for NYCW's Teen Actors Project. I want to bring attention to the DASA Act and to speak on some issues of extreme importance to me and many students across New York. Those are student bullying, student mental health, and student harassment. Too many people don't know that New York has passed DASA, or the Dignity for All Students Act, all the way back in 2012. The law promises that every student has the right to an education free from discrimination and harassment, and it requires schools to have policies, coordinators, and training to prevent bullying based on race, religion, weight, sexual orientation, and more. But a law on paper means nothing if it's not enforced. Ask yourself how many students even know who their DASA coordinator is, and how many teachers receive real, meaningful training on it. While I myself have not experienced bullying, I've heard the stories of my friends and classmates, most of them being Black and brown students. I attend a PWI, predominantly white institution, and I once had a classmate call me from home, telling me she was scared to go to school because she'd been getting bullied for wearing her hair in an afro. Her anxiety wasn't paranoia or her being worried over nothing. Students, kids like me, are consistently told by teachers and administration that our emotions and fears are non-existent, and therefore we're brushed aside. But by doing that, not just our mental health, but our safety, our community, and our education are also pushed aside. Not all NYC schools are like the private ones that can afford to have psychologists, but they should all have a way for kids to share their very real problems and for everyone to take us seriously. We students are consistently asked to give our education our full time and concern. Why don't our administrations do the same for us? When it gets to the point where this kind of anxiety affects our mental health and our studies, it is beyond the point where something must be done. New York needs to stop making false promises and fulfill the one it already made to students over a decade ago. A promise to protect the well-being of this state's students. Today I ask for the end of this ignorance so that we may spend a moment to think about just how many kids, young leaders, and how many young learners could benefit from DASA. We should be able to lean on the Dignity for All Students Act to ensure schools are free from discrimination and harassment, moving towards a future where mental health resources, especially for students, are recognized as a human right. I urge you all to work with your agencies to raise awareness about the existence of DASA and to develop a more robust enforcement system.
Thank you so much. I do want to say also, like, everyone is bringing up some really, really good points, but they're also about very different topics, which I think, we love to hear. But I expect there are probably people on the panel who are, being sort of, it's bringing up things for them about they're dealing with in their own work. So I do want to say that at the end, if time permits, I'll also pass the mic around to the panelists up at the front, so that if anyone wants to respond to anything particular that they heard in the public testimony, that they'll have the chance to do that here. We just can't stop after every person because we would be here. We would be here sort of all night if that were the case. But we are listening. This is all being recorded, and the fact that we're not able to speak back to each topic as it happens doesn't mean that we're not listening and that we're not really thrilled to hear what you have to say today. So if we do, if we finish before 5, which I think we will give the opportunity for any of the city agency reps who want to speak at all to any of the issues that are raised today. No pressure, no requirement, but if there are things you want to raise or bring up, you're welcome to respond to that and speak at the end. So I did want to let everyone know that. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Brianna. So our next speaker is Nigel, followed by Ana, Salvador, and then the next one is Maria Eduarda Mendez de Oliveira.
Good afternoon, my name is Nigel, and I'm an activist here at NYCLU. And I'm here because I watched something deeply unfair happen to students who look like me and learn beside me. Schools are supposed to be places where we grow. Instead, for too many kids, they become the first place where they're treated like suspects. In New York City, the numbers tell a story that people in our communities already know. 90% of the students arrested in schools are Black or Latinx, even though we're far from 90% of the population. Students with disabilities who already fight every day to be understood are punished at even higher rates compared to their able-bodied peers. These aren't accidents, they're choices that adults made, and choices that can be unmade. Many students walk into school carrying anxiety and trauma that no one can see. When these struggles show up in their behaviors, they're often met with force instead of care. A panic attack is treated like defiance. A cry for help becomes a confrontation. And every time that happens, the message is clear. Your pain makes you a problem. When mental health is punished instead of supported, the harm spreads through entire communities, and young people learn to suffer quietly rather than seek help. Instead of hurting students being met with support, they're met with police. A hallway argument becomes an arrest. Fear becomes a mugshot, and the child who needed help walks out with a record. And once that record exists, the world reads them differently. The path narrows, the future gets smaller. This is what's called the school to prison pipeline. But for young people living in it, it feels less like a pipeline and more like a trap. It feels like you were labeled dangerous long before you even had a chance to grow up. This is why raise the age law matters. Before it existed, New York treated 16 and 17-year-olds as adults in the criminal system. Kids barely old enough to drive were pushed into adult courts and jails. This system didn't create safety. Instead, it promoted trauma, fear, and lost potential. Raise the Age changed that by moving most teens into family court, where the goal is growth and accountability instead of punishment. And the fear campaigns against it are just not true. Youth crime hasn't risen because of Raise the Age. The percentage of felony assaults involving people under 18 is lower today than it was in 2006. Still, some officials want to roll this law back. They want to return teenagers to a system that failed them. They want to undo progress based on fear, not facts. I'm asking you to hold the line. Young people don't need harsher courts. We don't need more police in our schools. We need counselors who see us as people, not problems. We need programs that give us choice, not criminal records. We need adults who believe that youth can grow because we can. Please protect Raise the Age. Please help us build a future where the first response to a child in crisis is compassion, because compassion is what keeps us safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can return to your seats, and we'll call up the next two, who are Ana Salvador and Maria Eduarda Mendez de Oliveira. And after that are Kaljetu Diallo and Shok Jakon Sabiev. Whenever you're ready, you can start.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Maria Eduarda Mendez and I'm here represent the TAP. And I'm 15 years old, I'm from Brazil. I'm here to talking about how racism and lack of support shaped the experience of Black, Latinas, and immigrant students in New York City. Before I moved here, I studied in private schools in Brazil, where I was often one of the only Black Latina girls. When I arrived in New York, I expected in the school should be a place where I could grow without fear, but instead I found the same partners in different forms. In my first week in Washington Heights, a community where the most people speak Spanish, people assumed that I was Dominica or expected me to speak Spanish simply because I'm a Black Latina. That pressure to fit into an identity that I wasn't mine made me feel invisible before anyone even knew my name. At the same time, I have no real guidance or how the school system works. For nearly 2 months, I tried to understand how to advance academically and where to find support, but the answers never came. Navigating everything alone, showing me how hard it is for immigrant students to feel stable in a system not designed for us. Inside of the classroom, I experienced moments that made me clear how race, language, and identity affect whose voices are heard. That interaction sent me a strong message about who belongs and who must constantly prove themselves. This experience shapes my ethnography research, Black adolescents, and the non-racialization in the school system is never personal. But beginning here taught me that what institutions call never personal often become deeply personally for Black and Latina students, especially those who are immigrants. Talking to my peers, I realized that racism and lack of support I face in Brazil also exists here, across of the city. Students deal with language barriers, limited guidance, and educators who are not trained to understand our identity. We feel unsafe and unprotected, not because we lack potential, but because the system lacks the structure we need. So I ended with the question that guides my search. If institutions say it's never personal, then why does the impact fall so personally on Black and immigrant students in New York? And how might our future change in the school choose courage inside of the silence? Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anna Salvador. I am a high school sophomore at Academy of American Studies and a youth activist at the NYCLU's Teen Activist Project. Today, I am here to talk about students' mental health and the impact of being bullied or harassed in New York City schools. Most importantly, I want to speak on the ongoing issue with the Dignity for All Students Act, also known as DASA, and how it has not been enforced as much as it needs to be. While attending an NYC public school, people around me have been subject to harassment, bullying, and discrimination, including myself. A friend of mine, a few years back, experienced stalking and harassment inside and outside of school. For her, it brought her a sense of stress, a sense of discomfort in a place that is meant to be protecting students and bringing education to all. This experience soon became a great issue to her mental health. She felt that she could not go home without feeling any discomfort. Being her closest friend, I wanted to make sure that I could speak up on this. A report was submitted and the investigation on the matter failed to protect her. There was no action being taken. As a student, I needed to take more action than the administration at school. I have heard countless stories from my peers being discriminated for their race, gender, and sexuality in their own schools. The schools and their administrations failed to take action, and I now see people being negatively impacted, and now students struggle with low self-esteem and poor performance. It has been 10 years since the Dignity for All Students Act was created back in September of 2010. Its purpose to protect the students of New York City hasn't met its expectation of protecting all. There's been a failure from schools to have accessible reach to the Respect for All license or DASA coordinators, to the point students do not realize those people are there to support students. Not only that, but according to the NYCLU's website, this act also affects issues outside of school, such as cyberbullying or harassment in a student's neighborhood. People like me do not have the resources to speak up on these issues, and little by little, mental health of many New York City teens continues to decline as a result. And to this, I urge you to bring more awareness in schools and the administrations about the Dignity for All Students Act in order to protect our students and help them battle against bullying and harassment, to endure depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues, and make sure that these mental illnesses do not get in the way of their lives. Thank you for your time and attention to this important issue.
Thank you both very much. I'll call up the next panel, which is Kadiatu and Shopchakon. And the following panel after that will be Eileen O'Mahony and Taj Mangra.
Thank you all for coming, and thank you especially to all officials here today. Good afternoon, my name is Kadiatu Diallo, and I'm a junior from the Bronx High School of Science. I'm here today with the NYCL Youth Teen Activist Project to speak on comprehensive sexuality education. In my school, like many others, we only take one semester of health across all 4 years of high school. And even in that one semester, the lessons are vague, repetitive, and honestly shame-based. We were told over and over again to just stay abstinent, and everything else was treated like a no-go topic. When we did talk about sexual health, important subjects were completely left out. Different types of birth control, different kinds of STIs, how consent actually works, how to respect boundaries, and how to talk about our bodies without embarrassment. Currently, according to the CDC, fewer than half of U.S. high schools teach all the essential topics related to sex education, and this gap is even wider among communities of color. Here in New York City, a comptroller audit found that 88% of middle and high schools serving grades 6 to 12 do not have a teacher license to teach health education. I see these effects often. Classmates who are confused about their bodies, who don't know their rights at doctor's offices, who don't have access to factual information, and who feel ashamed to even ask questions. Comprehensive sex education isn't just about avoiding pregnancy or STIs, even though the research shows it absolutely helps with that. Public health experts agree that when students get medically accurate, age-appropriate information, it improves our overall well-being and reduces health disparities between different communities. That's because real sex ed teaches us how to set boundaries, how to build healthy relationships, and how to understand our bodies instead of feeling ashamed or confused. It also matters for safety. LGBTQ+ students who already face higher rates of bullying and harassment in schools deserve a curriculum that acknowledges and supports them. New York State does not currently require medically accurate health education. And what does that lead to? It leaves us unprepared, and it leaves us less confident about our bodies, our relationships, and our decisions. Right now, students across the state get information that is biased, incomplete, or completely wrong. And that puts us at risk. How are we supposed to make the right choices if schools don't give us the information that these choices depend on? This is why we need the Healthy and Safe Students Act. This bill would require public and charter schools across New York to teach inclusive, age-appropriate, medically accurate K-12 health education. We urge you to use your power and influence to raise awareness about this bill because students deserve to know how to be safe, how to navigate relationships, how to understand themselves, and how to protect their health. Teens deserve facts, not fear. I will leave you all with this statistic. For every dollar invested into comprehensive sex ed, $2.65 is saved. Sex education is health education. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shopchakon Svia. I'm a senior at Leon M. Goldstein High School for the Sciences. I'm a part of the New York Civil Liberties Union Teen Activist Project, and today I'm here to talk about classroom censorship and book bans in New York. When most people hear about New York and classroom censorship or book bans, they think impossible, not in New York, but that's just simply not true. Last year in March, The Gothamist reported that hundreds of books were literally found in the trash outside of a public school in Staten Island. The books focused on Black history, immigration, and the experiences of LGBTQIA+ students. They were tossed around with sticky notes that said, "Our country has no room and it's not fair." Some didn't even try to conceal their blatant racism and wrote, "Not approved, discusses being transgender," or "Teenage girls having a crush on another girl in class." It's part of a larger trend taking place nationwide and yes, even in New York. Just in one school year, PEN America reported 3,300 instances of book banning. A little over 30% of the books covered race or characters of color, while 25% discussed being LGBTQIA. I find it appalling that schools can arbitrarily label certain identities as too controversial and completely erase their stories in the classrooms and libraries. But we're not powerless. The Freedom to Read Act addresses this issue by empowering library staff to have the freedom of creating youth collections that are both encompassing and educational. It would also require the Commissioner of Education to enact regulations to ensure that library collections are vibrant and inclusive of all students. I deserve to have access to books that reflect my identity and history. All students deserve to have access to books that reflect the diverse tapestry of stories that make New York what it is today. The bill has already passed both chambers of the state legislature, and at this point, it only needs to be signed by Governor Hochul into state law. We're running out of time to get this past the finish line and to protect our right to access information. On Monday, December 8th, we at TAP want to invite you to our read-in of banned books at Union Square Park at 3:30 p.m. I also have a QR code for you to learn more. So, to everyone here, and to folks watching on Zoom, please reach out to everyone you know, use your power, use your influence to encourage Governor Hochul to sign this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. We're going to move to our next panel, which is Eileen and Taj. The panel after that will be Puneet and Ariana, if you are both here. And you can speak in whichever order you prefer.
Hi, my name is Eileen O'Mahony, and I'm a freshman at the Baccalaureate School for Global Education and an activist at the NYCLU Teen Activist Project. And I'm here today to raise the issue with classroom censorship. Censorship leads to a curriculum that does not provide accurate education. It instead promotes restrictions and limitations on specific viewpoints, and it removes controversial topics and perspectives from school settings, often fueled by political pressure. Students who seek representation in their learning communities get hurt. Censorship poses a real problem to schools, silencing identities, losing diverse viewpoints, and even erasing histories. One huge way censorship is impacting me and others is through book bans of topics surrounding race, political issues, and LGBTQ. There are some laws in states restricting what teachers can and can't say, limiting discussion of systemic racism, slavery, and civil rights movements. Our academic freedom is being violated each and every time school boards restrict how much exposure we have to certain books and prevent the younger generation from exploring controversial topics. In the 2022 school year, there were over 3,000 book bans. 30% of them were about race, and over 25% included LGBTQ themes. Which is why I urge you to raise awareness of the Freedom to Read Act, a bill that empowers librarian staff to keep collections of books available for students. It ensures that library books are inclusive and a diverse array. Freedom to Read passed in both chambers of the New York State Legislature this year, and only Governor Hochul's signature is needed to sign the bill into law. It's crucial for the future generation of kids to pass this bill, so I have to ask you to scan this QR code to send a strong message to Governor Hochul to sign the Freedom to Read. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Taj Mangra, and I am a senior at Park East High School, and I'm here with the NYCLU's Teen Activist Project to discuss something that has a direct impact on the safety, health, and futures of students like me across New York, and that is comprehensive sex education. New York State, New York State, people think of as liberal or progressive, doesn't require sex education to be medically accurate, or even required at all. In fact, only 37% of US states mandate medically accurate sex education, and New York isn't one of them. Because of this, students' knowledge about their sexual health and relationships boil down to where they go to school. And there, they may or may not be taught accurate sex education. When students receive comprehensive sex education, they're more likely to delay sexual activity, more likely to use protection if they do become sexually active, and significantly less likely to experience teenage pregnancy. Investments in comprehensive sex education are so effective that for every dollar spent, New York saves $2.65 in other healthcare costs, as you heard from the last. For LGBTQ plus students, inclusive sex education is a matter of safety, and they face higher rates of school victimization, which is tied to lower academic performance, more absenteeism, and worse emotional and mental health. Leaving these students out of the sex education isn't keeping education like neutral. Instead, it creates harm because they end up feeling alienated and unheard. This issue matters to me personally because I've seen what informed students look like. At school, we've learned about HIV, STI prevention, contraception, and setting healthy boundaries. And as a result, I've watched my peers make safer, healthier decisions because they actually understood the risks. However, I was shocked to learn that none of that was actually required. It made me realize that students across the city and even the state might never get that information unless adults intervene in their education. Comprehensive sex education is not just about preventing teen pregnancy. It's about teaching consent, boundaries, healthy relationships, and respect, and these skills that protect us long before any sexual decisions are made. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much. Our next two panelists are Puneet and Ariana, followed by Anita and Amber.
First of all, thank you so much everyone for giving us, the students, opportunity to directly talk with everyone in here. So my name is Ariana Misha. I'm a sophomore at the Institute for Collaborative Education, and I'm an activist at New York Civil Liberty Union Teen Activist Project. So today I'm going to talk about something which a lot of New Yorkers like you and me usually faces each and every day, and go through this each and every day, but never really we don't really talk much about it. So this is basically, I'm going to talk about environmental crisis in New York City today. So no one really in this generation, especially in New York, when I first came to New York, I'm new in New York City, and it was like forever my dream city, but the city that I used to see all the time in television, and it used to be before, it's not the same as before because the city has been losing a lot of air quality. The air quality has been changing so much in last couple of years, and because of all those cases, the temperatures vulnerabilities are also really very increasing in all cases, to be honest, because we do not have much trees in our city, and this is causing a lot of problem. In the morning, I was asking one of my friends in the school that what do you think about the tree quality in New York City, and they were like, when we have much people in a certain area, we do not have much tree because of creating housings and etc. So this is one of the reasons that came up to me, that exactly, we do not have much trees in our city, and trees are really very important. We have 8 million New Yorkers in here, but we need much amount of trees. We have Central Park, but that's not enough. In each area, we need more trees, which is going to create clean the air a lot more. And also there are a lot of factories which are really important, but also those are emitting a lot of gases, carbon dioxide, methane, which are really very bad for the environment, and these are creating a lot of bad effects. So for this reason, as a student, I request for this reason, as a student, I request for creating more summits for students and tree plantation events so that we can be able to get to know about what climate change is, because a lot of students, a lot of classmates of mine doesn't really know much about climate change and doesn't really know what makes climate change possible, because our educational system doesn't inquire a lot of education about climate change, which is really very important because the climate change is real and it's happening and it's really very dangerous. So this is what I had to say. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good afternoon. My name is Puneet Kaur and I'm a junior at Francis Lewis High School and an activist from the NYCLU's Teen Activist Project. Every day, students across New York deal with bullying, harassment, and discrimination. They feel isolated, unsure of who to turn to, dreading each day. Situations like these are where Dignity for All Students Act, or DASA, should step in. DASA was put in place in order to prevent students from being bullied and discriminated against in school and even outside of school if it impacts their academic performance. Students being harassed should be able to open up to an adult who knows how to approach such a serious topic with the utmost care. Under DASA, public schools in New York are required to have a Respect for All liaison or a DASA coordinator. However, in 2017, it was reported by the Office of the New York State Comptroller that many schools in New York don't properly provide students or parents with resources to contact their coordinator, or the school does not properly train staff to notice, assess, or control discrimination and bullying. In my own school, I've seen close friends experience harassment all on their own. Due to the fact my school has a small black and brown population in both the student and staff body, racist remarks are often normalized. Students facing this discrimination stay quiet, not knowing who to turn to. While trying on multiple occasions to get them to speak to staff at my school, they usually turn me down, thinking reporting the issue wouldn't do a thing for them. Others say they don't know who they could speak with about it comfortably. None of us knew what a DASA coordinator or a Respect for All liaison was, let alone our school had one. While DASA has helped many students, many are still left behind, unable to reap the benefits of this law due to the lack of enforcement by schools. Without the proper enforcement of this law, we will continue to see a rise in discrimination towards already marginalized groups. Students facing discrimination and harassment who have no one to turn to may never find a sense of community within their school and have worse academic performance and experience other negative physical and mental consequences. Staff within schools should be educated on DASA and how to deal with students facing harassment and bullying. Schools should be trained on how to report cases of bullying, and parents and students should be able to easily access their Respect for All liaison or DASA coordinator on their school's website. No student should have to deal with bullying, harassment, or discrimination alone. I urge you to encourage stronger enforcement of this act to create a safer educational system in which nobody feels left behind, less than, or invisible. Creating a safe and accepting environment for all allows for children to thrive in the ways they need to, making well-established adults. DASA was made to do exactly that, and we need to make sure it can fully accomplish this goal. And with some encouragement and hard work, we can. Thank you for your time.
The last two that I have on my list here are Anita Zhu and Amber Montaigne. Is there anyone else in the room who's interested in testifying whose name I did not call? Okay, thanks.
Hello. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Amber Montaigne. I'm a New York City high school student, and today I'd like to speak on the environmental issues affecting our communities. New York City has a long-standing history of pollution and health disparities in low-income Black communities and low-income communities of color. This is driven by neglect and structural racism. Living in central Brooklyn, I've seen a lot of these tragedies firsthand. You see, one of the many issues affecting my community is the lack of green spaces. This is one issue that causes these health disparities I mentioned earlier, many of them being heat-related. Because of our current situation, many low-income Black communities and low-income communities of color are uniquely climate vulnerable. For example, a Black New Yorker is twice as likely to die from heat stress than a white New Yorker. there is a direct connection between our people's personal health and their communities. Many of our neighborhoods have a history of redlining and suffer from disproportionately higher levels of pollution and extreme heat. New York City has many polluting industries like transportation, our waste management, and building emissions. But these facilities are disproportionately located in our low-income Black communities and low-income communities of color. So the health consequences follow suit. These communities face higher risk from pollution-related illnesses like asthma and heart and lung problems. All of these issues fall under one umbrella of environmental justice, and they have gone on far too long. So please, I urge you to support this fight for change. Thank you. I have a bit more time left, and I felt a little inspired by a peer of mine that spoke earlier about cell phone bans. And I would like to say that as a student who called 988 during school hours, the suicide prevention hotline, I don't know what I would have done in a situation like that, not having access to my phone, especially not having access in a way that my phone was locked away in a case. I truly believe that rules and regulations surrounding phones for students disregard so many students who are struggling in our schools already, and it makes it harder for students to stay in school and graduate. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my name is Anita Zhu and I'm an activist in NYCLA's Teen Activist Project. I'm also a high school sophomore at Brooklyn Tech. I'm here today to discuss the impact of bullying and harassment on the mental health of students all around the world. There are many instances of the effects that bullying and torment has had on adults. A CDC study found that 28.5% of bullied teenagers reported symptoms of depression, in comparison to only 12.1% that were not on the receiving end of such harassment. Another source, a meta-analysis from NIH, depicts how students that were bullied were 2.77 times more likely to develop depression than people who weren't. Depression can lead to a variety of negative outcomes. People can face social ostracization, chronic stress, persistent sadness, or just a helpless grief and numbness that suits to every aspect of your life. I've seen the effects of bullying and harassment take root in countless aspects of my own life. Through the sleepless nights I spent crying, wondering what I had done to deserve the cruelty that my elementary school classmates have been inflicting on me. It is through the internet rabbit holes I delved into endless cases of bullying victims, all of their own voices and stories to share, that I haven't realized I wasn't alone in my struggle. They too deserve the rights to have peace and tranquility, and to live a happy life free from the prejudice of others. Imagine this: you face vicious harassment and subjugation, every day distorting into an indistinguishable mass of pain and fear, all while having nowhere to go or seek help from. It's nothing short of unacceptable. So please, I urge you to consider the well-being of students, and not just students, but people with their own passions and dreams, their own feelings and hopes, to protect and emphasize the humanity everyone cherishes. Enforcing and expanding anti-bullying laws, especially the Dignity for All Student Act, implementing comprehensive school policies that include prevention and support, and conducting public outreach to inform the community about available resources. Every little act matters. The value of your support is immeasurable, especially in times like these. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so very much. Is there anyone on the Zoom who is interested in testifying? Okay, no. All right, so I want to thank everyone who spoke, not only the teen activists, but specifically the teen activists for being so open and so honest, and for really sharing what's important to you in like such a straightforward way. I know it's not always easy, but I really appreciated hearing all of it. So I do want to, since some of the issues that were raised, right, relate to libraries, relate to the environment, to the school environment, sort of all these pieces. I just wanted to give the chance if any of my colleagues from other city agencies wanted to say a few words in response. I wanted to invite anyone to either share resources or just, if you want to respond in any way. It's not required, but we have enough time that you're invited to do so if you'd like.
Hi everyone, once again I'm from Brooklyn Public Library, and I heard many of you speaking about intellectual freedom to read, things like that, and I just wanted to point out that we have our Intellectual Freedom to Read meetup regularly at Brooklyn Public Library, and teens are invited to join. It's a virtual session. We have it every third Tuesday of every month. I have flyers here if you'd like to take that and get a little bit more information of that, because that's all part of our Books Unbanned initiative, where we try to challenge book bannings, book burnings, and things like that, where we help provide library cards to people, primarily people outside of New York City who don't have access to our library systems, that suffer from all the censorship and everything that's gone on. So yeah, if you want to have another platform where your voices can be heard, where we can gather troops to try to keep fighting these book bans and book challenges, I urge you to join the Intellectual Freedom to Read meetup. And I have plenty of flyers here. And again, I have other information on internships and other resources that we have at the library to help.
I agree. I think you should all check out those resources because they're really wonderful. I'm Caitlin from the New York Public Library, and I really appreciated hearing all the emphasis on the book banning and the importance of the freedom to read. And I just wanted to reiterate that the public libraries in New York City really believe in access, and they believe that young people should have access. I know a lot of the publishing industry has recently been held accountable for the lack of representation, and I think that is starting to change. It is not where it needs to be, but I will say that there are a lot of book lists you can find on different themes, on different subjects, lots of LGBTQ representation, all types of genres, whether you like drama, whether you like realistic stuff. So be sure to check out the book list available from our library in addition to the other resources, because the world is changing in that way, and I think that's really wonderful to see.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else from city agencies who wanted to say anything before we close out? Okay. And I'm assuming on the Zoom they would raise their hands if so. Okay, so thank you so very much, and please know also that we're all going to be going back and speaking with all of our colleagues and everyone. So even if sort of the topic that you addressed, this wasn't the exact audience that works on it within their agency, that we're all going back and speaking with our colleagues, with our supervisors, with our leadership, just to really make sure that that what was said here doesn't just stay in this room and doesn't move anywhere else. So I really want to thank everyone for their participation. I would like to invite everyone to please stick around and have some of these delicious snacks that arrived later than planned, but there's more than enough for everyone here. My colleagues Elizabeth and Jalen have some swag, some giveaways over there, and they will be happy to help you fill out the community needs assessment, which we would love for you to do while you're on your phone, while you're waiting for your turn for a cookie or some fruit. So again, I want to thank everyone for your participation, our city agency colleagues, and our members of the public who came to testify. We appreciate all of your input. We look forward to working with you more, and we just want to send you everyone our best wishes for the end of 2025 for happiness as we move into the next year. Thanks so much, everyone. This meeting is officially adjourned.